People say Blackstone Quarry is just a pit filled with water and old trash, but the first time I stood at its edge, I knew they were wrong. The place didn't feel abandoned. It felt alive, like the earth itself was holding its breath. The air was colder than it should have been, sharp enough to sting my lungs, and the silence had weight to it, a silence that pressed against my ears until I could hear nothing but the rush of my own blood. I wanted to believe it was just a hole in the ground, but I knew better. I could feel it watching. I'm Detective Elias Thorne, 20 years on the job, and I thought I'd seen enough to make me immune to stories like this. I've pulled bodies out of wrecks, broken news to parents, walked crime scenes slick with blood. I've trained myself to rationalize everything, but none of that mattered when I saw Margaret Ellis. She was a 62-year-old school teacher, the kind of woman who had pictures of her students pinned up like family, and we found her slumped across her desk, wrists torn open, lips blue, eyes staring. The coroner wanted to call it a suicide. I've seen suicides. They don't look like this. The note she left behind was rambling, barely legible, a mess of apologies that circled back on themselves until the paper tore. But what made the hair rise on the back of my neck was how often she wrote one name: Daniel. Daniel, I'm sorry. Daniel, forgive me. Daniel, why are you still here? She wrote about him forgiving her, and then about how he changed, how he wasn't Daniel anymore, how he just stood there watching her, refusing to leave. I read it twice, then a third time. It didn't sound like the voice of a woman preparing to die. It sounded like someone being driven out of her mind. Quarry, Officer Lena Cruz said as she stood beside me. Her voice was clipped, like she hated saying it out loud. She was seen there 3 nights ago. Neighbor said she was shouting into the water. Same way my aunt did, I shot her a look, tired and sharp. Don't start with the stories. She didn't flinch. It's not a story if it keeps happening. Lena was young, newer to the force, but she'd grown up here in Raven's End. Her grandmother had raised her on tales about the quarry, not as bedtime spooks, but as warnings. She'd lost an aunt to it years back, and though she didn't talk about it much, I knew it haunted her. Still, I didn't want folklore clouding a case. Grief has a way of eating people alive, and sometimes they build monsters out of it. But as we bagged the note and left the classroom, the overhead light flickered, buzzing loud enough to make my teeth ache. And for half a second I swore I saw someone sitting in the back row. A boy, dripping wet, his hair plastered flat against his skull, staring at me. When I blinked, the seat was empty. I didn't mention it to Lena. I didn't even want to admit it to myself. The next day we were in the archives with Maya Petrov, the town's historian, though she looked more like a ghost than a guide. Pale skin, dark eyes, hair that seemed untouched by sunlight. She was surrounded by stacks of brittle clippings, her fingers black with newsprint, and she spoke like she'd been waiting years for someone to finally ask. I told you, she said, sliding a yellowed article toward me. It's always the same. 4 days. They go to the quarry, they call out a name, and then they're seen talking to people who aren't there. By the 4th day, they're gone. The article was from 1924. Local miner leaps from quarry bridge after claiming he saw his brother alive again. Another from 1958. Widowed mother found drowned. Neighbors said she'd been shouting her husband's name into the lake. There were more. Decades of them. People lost to the same pattern, the same cycle. It's coincidence, I muttered, though the word felt weak. Tragedies pile up in towns like this. People look for patterns because it's easier than facing the chaos. Maya's smirk was sharp, humorless. Then explain your teacher's note. Explain how she thought her student forgave her. Explain how he changed. I felt something twist inside me at those words. Forgiveness that curdles into something hateful. Someone you love, looking at you with empty eyes. My chest tightened, because I couldn't keep my mind from drifting where it always did. Back to Chloe. My daughter. 17, stubborn, fiery. Dead because I told her I was too busy with real crime to deal with her teenage drama. She jumped from the railway bridge. The memory was a knife that never stopped cutting. Lena leaned closer, her voice low. My aunt went the same way. She screamed my grandfather's name into the quarry, said she saw him again. By the fourth night she was gone, and nobody in my family will talk about it. But I will, because it's happening again, and if we don't stop it, it won't end. I rubbed my temples. You're saying what? That the quarry grows doubles of people? No, she whispered. It grows regrets. I wanted to laugh it off, but I couldn't. Not when the note, the clippings, and my own guilt were all pulling me in the same direction. That night I tried to sleep. Tried, but my dreams didn't let me. Chloe was standing at the foot of my bed, hair dripping as if she'd just crawled out of deep water. Her lips trembled, her eyes red. "Why didn't you answer the phone, Dad?" she whispered. "I called before I jumped." I woke, gasping, nails digging crescents into my palms so deep they bled. The room was empty, but her voice clung to the air like smoke. I stumbled to the bathroom, turned on the light, and bent over the sink to splash water on my face. When I looked up, I froze. She was in the mirror, not behind me, not beside me. In the glass. Her reflection tilted its head, lips curling into a smile full of teeth too sharp, too many, not hers. I slammed my fist into the mirror, shattering it into 100 pieces. My reflection bled back at me, but the smile was gone. For years I'd been afraid of living with the memory of losing her. But that night, for the first time, I was afraid of what might still be here, of what might be coming for me. The broken mirror stayed with me through the day. Every shard on the bathroom floor seemed to hold a sliver of her face, her sharp smile staring up at me, waiting for me to acknowledge what I'd seen. I swept it up, bled into the trash bag, and told myself I'd imagined it. I'd imagined all of it. But the problem with lies you tell yourself is that eventually you stop believing them, and then you're left with the truth you can't face. When Lena came to pick me up the next morning, she noticed the bandages on my knuckles. She didn't ask, and I didn't offer. Instead, she drove us to the quarry. She said she wanted me to see it properly, not just in reports or rumors, but to stand there and feel what everyone else had felt before they fell. The sky was gray, heavy with low clouds that swallowed the light, and the closer we got, the quieter the world became. Birds stopped singing. The wind died down. Even the crunch of the gravel under the tires seemed muted. The quarry was worse in daylight. The water stretched black and still, a mirror that refused to reflect the sky. The rocks around it were jagged, scarred from old blasts, as though the earth itself had been ripped open. Warning signs lined the chain-link fence, some bent, some rusted through, all ignored. Lena cut the engine and sat staring at the water, her jaw tight. "My aunt stood right there," she said, pointing to a flat stretch of ground near the edge. "Neighbors heard her scream his name into the water. Said she was sobbing so hard they thought she'd fall in right then. 4 days later, she was found in her kitchen, staring at the ceiling, like she was waiting for something only she could see." I followed her gaze to the water. I didn't want to admit it, but my chest was tightening, my stomach churning, like something in me already knew the truth. "You believe this," I said. "I've seen enough not to doubt it." Her voice cracked just enough to remind me she wasn't some wide-eyed kid chasing campfire stories. She'd lived it. I wanted to turn away, but the water seemed to hold me. My reflection wavered there, distorted, and for a second it looked younger, like the version of me Chloe would have remembered before everything went wrong. Then, just as quickly, it snapped back to the tired, hollow-eyed man I was. I stepped away, heart hammering. Back in town, we met Maya again. She'd been digging deeper, pulling old journals from victims, letters, even police reports from decades ago. She spread them across her desk like cards in a game, and each one told the same story in different handwriting. Someone loses a loved one, someone goes to the quarry, someone cries out a name, and then someone swears they've seen that person again. For 3 nights, they describe visits, conversations, arguments, and then on the 4th night, silence. Always silence. Maya tapped her finger on one diary in particular. Listen to this. 1981, a man lost his wife in a car accident. He wrote that she came back to him at night, dripping wet, smiling the same way he remembered, but by the 3rd night, she wasn't smiling anymore. She started asking questions he couldn't answer. Why didn't you fix the brakes? Why weren't you driving instead of me? And then she laughed at him. Laughed until he couldn't stand it. 4th night, they found him hanging in his garage. Her voice was calm, but I could see the unease in her eyes. She didn't want to believe it either, but the evidence was piling up too neatly to ignore. It's not ghosts, Maya said. It's something else. It's like the quarry takes what you regret most, pulls it out of you, shapes it into something you can't escape. It doesn't just follow you, it knows you, it talks to you, it changes based on how you react. I tried to keep my face still, but Lena saw it. She knew I was thinking of Chloe. She didn't push, though. She just let the silence stretch, until the sound of the clock ticking on the wall felt louder than any voice. That night, we were called to another scene. A boy named Evan, 16, friend of Lena's nephew. He'd been to the quarry 2 nights earlier. His friends said he'd shouted his father's name into the water. His father had been abusive, gone for years. The boy swore he saw him again, walking toward him out of the dark. We found Evan in his room, pale, trembling, talking to someone none of us could see. He kept backing into the corner, shouting, "Stay away from me!" His eyes darted around the room, but when I looked, there was nothing. Nothing except a shadow in his gaze that told me he was seeing something real, at least to him. We tried to calm him, but it was like trying to talk someone down from a ledge you couldn't see. He screamed that his father was right there, asking him why he wasn't strong enough, why he hadn't fought back, why he'd been so weak. His throat went raw, his body shaking, and finally he collapsed, sobbing. Lena crouched beside him, whispering that it wasn't real, but her eyes betrayed her. She believed it was real. I did too. We got him to the hospital, but I knew it was pointless. The pattern was written too clearly in every dusty page of Maya's archives. 1st night, the witness appears. 2nd night, it presses harder. By the 3rd, it twists the knife. By the 4th, it kills. I didn't sleep again that night. Every creak of the house made me jolt upright. Every shadow stretched too long, lingered too close. When I finally closed my eyes, Chloe was there again, not screaming this time, smiling, gentle. She sat at the edge of my bed, her hand on mine, and whispered, "It's okay, Dad. I forgive you." It was what I wanted more than anything in the world, and it felt so real that for a moment I let myself believe it. I felt warmth, relief, the ache in my chest easing like a wound finally closing. But then her smile faltered, and her eyes darkened. Her voice dropped into a tone I didn't recognize, sharp and cold. "But why didn't you answer the phone?" The warmth drained out of me. My hand was still in hers, but it felt wrong now, clammy, too strong. I pulled away, and she laughed. A hollow, broken laugh that didn't sound like her at all. I bolted upright in bed, the room empty, my skin slick with sweat. The quarry hadn't waited for me to visit. It had already found me. The morning after that dream, I felt like I was already losing. My house, my own skin. None of it felt safe anymore. Every sound carried weight. Every shadow seemed to lean toward me. I told myself I was too tired, too wound up, but deep down, I knew the quarry had its claws in me. I hadn't gone to it, but it had found its way into me all the same. Lena picked me up again. She didn't have to say anything. She could see it in my eyes. The way her jaw tightened told me she knew what was happening. She wanted to ask if I'd seen Chloe, but she didn't. Instead, she just drove. We met Maya at the archives again. She'd stayed up most of the night digging through her stacks of paper, and her hands trembled as she laid out another pattern for us. 4 nights, she said, pointing to a timeline she'd scribbled. Every single case follows the same structure. First night, the victim calls into the quarry. Second, they start seeing the witness. Third night, the witness becomes cruel, pushing them to the edge. Fourth, they die. Or worse. Her voice dropped when she said the last part. I leaned forward. Worse how? She hesitated, scanning the papers as if looking for a way out, then tapped one diary entry. This one. 1972. The man didn't die. He was found sitting on his porch at dawn, alive but empty. His sister said he didn't even remember his wife anymore, not her face, not her name. It was like the quarry had eaten her out of his head. He lived another 30 years, but he never spoke of her again. He never looked at a photo of her like he knew who she was. She was just gone from him. The grief was gone too. He wasn't a man anymore, just a husk. The words twisted in my gut. I couldn't imagine not remembering Chloe. Even in all the pain, the guilt, she was still mine. If she was taken from my mind, if she vanished from me completely, then what was left of me? We need to stop it, Lena said firmly. Her voice cut through the haze. If this thing feeds on regrets, there has to be a way to starve it, to fight it. Maya shook her head. The records say it was bound once, centuries ago. They called it the grief eater. People built an altar at the quarry to hold it, to keep it weak. But it's still here, still feeding. Every time it takes someone, it grows stronger. The room felt smaller, air pressing down. Lena looked at me then, eyes steady. Elias, tell me, did you see her? The words stuck in my throat. I wanted to deny it, but the image of Chloe's smile, the way it rotted into something cruel, was carved into me. I nodded. Just once. That was all it took. Lena swore under her breath. Then we don't have much time. That night, we tried to help Evan, the boy who had called out his father's name. The hospital staff said he hadn't stopped screaming since we brought him in. They strapped him down for his own safety, but he fought the restraints like he was being burned alive. When we walked in, he snapped his head toward us, eyes wide, lips trembling. He's here, Evan whispered. His voice was shredded raw. He's in the corner. Can't you see him? I forced myself to look, but there was nothing. Just sterile white walls, beeping monitors, the sour smell of disinfectant. But Evan's gaze didn't waver. He stared at that corner like it was swallowing him whole. He says it was my fault, Evan said, tears streaking down his face. Says I should have fought harder, should have stopped him, should have been stronger. He won't stop saying it. He won't leave me alone. Lena crouched beside him, speaking softly, trying to reach him, but her words didn't touch him. He kept flinching, crying, begging something unseen to stop. And when he screamed, the sound made every hair on my body stand up. For a split second, I thought I heard another voice in that room, low, cruel, overlapping with his screams. I couldn't make out the words, but I felt them crawl across my skin. We stayed as long as we could, but we both knew the truth. By the 4th night, he'd be gone. The quarry never spared anyone. That evening, I drove aimlessly through town, streets blurring past without meaning. My mind kept circling back to Chloe. I heard her voice in the radio static, saw her reflection in shop windows. At a red light, I glanced at the passenger seat and nearly drove off the road. She was sitting there, smiling softly. her head tilted just like she used to when she wanted me to really listen. "I forgive you, Dad," she said. The light turned green, horns blaring behind me, but I couldn't move. My throat tightened, eyes burning. "Chloe?" My voice cracked like a child's. Her smile widened, but her eyes were wrong. Empty black wells that didn't belong in my daughter's face. "Why didn't you answer the phone?" she whispered. I slammed my foot on the gas, the car lurching forward, and when I looked again, the seat was empty. Just a seatbelt twisted like it had been pulled tight. By the time I got home, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key into the lock. Inside, the house felt colder than outside. I kept the lights on, every single one, but the shadows didn't seem to care. They bent the wrong way, stretched longer than they should have, and wherever I went, I felt her just behind me. I staggered back, chest heaving. My phone buzzed then, rattling against the counter, and when I picked it up, my stomach turned to ice. One missed call. From Chloe. The timestamp read 11:07 p.m. The same time she had called me the night she died. The same call I'd ignored. I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, screen cracking, but the missed call stayed there, her name glowing in the dark like a curse. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. By dawn, I knew what I had to do. The quarry wasn't going to let me go. It had chosen me the second I thought of her, the second I admitted what I wanted most. And if it was going to take me, I wasn't going to let it happen in silence. I drove to the edge of Blackstone Quarry. The air was thick, wet, heavy, like the whole world was holding back a storm. I stood at the fence, staring down at the water that swallowed everything, and I felt my chest cave in. I opened my mouth, and before I could stop myself, I screamed her name. "Chloe!" My voice tore into the air, echoing against the rocks, swallowed by the still black water. The sound carried too far, like the quarry was pulling it down into its depths. My throat ached, my chest burned, but I screamed again, louder, until my voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I should have answered. I should have saved you." The echo came back, not just mine, but layered with something else, softer, higher, a voice I knew as well as my own. "Dad?" I froze. My knees buckled. The water rippled, and a shape began to rise. The surface of the quarry rippled as though something enormous stirred beneath, though the air above it was still. I wanted to step back, to turn and run, but my legs wouldn't move. My hands trembled, nails biting into my palms as I gripped the fence. The water glistened under the pale moon. And then I saw her. At first it was just the crown of a head, wet hair slicked to a face too pale for the living. The water slid off her shoulders and she climbed onto the rocks like she had simply been wading beneath the surface all these years. She was dry when she stood, her clothes hanging exactly as I remembered them from the night she left. A hoodie, jeans, sneakers, even the chipped blue polish on her nails. "Chloe," I whispered. The name burned in my throat. She lifted her head, eyes locking on mine. For a moment, just one unbearable moment, it was her, my little girl, whole again. She gave me that tiny smile, the one that always cracked when she tried to hide her sadness. "I missed you, Dad," she said. I broke. My knees hit the gravel, the cold biting through my pants. Tears blurred my vision, and I wanted to crawl to her, to hold her, to beg her to forgive me. But something deep, instinctive, screamed at me to stay still. Her smile widened, stretched too far. Her lips curled back over teeth that seemed just a little too sharp, too long. "You left me there," she hissed. The sweetness in her tone rotted away, replaced by venom. "I called you. I begged you. And you didn't pick up." Her voice hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, pressing my hands to my ears, but her words were inside my head. I could feel them burrowing. I tried. My voice cracked, useless. I didn't know. You knew. The way she said it shattered me. No anger, no screaming, just cold certainty. She stepped closer, her movements smooth, inhuman, like a puppet on strings. I scrambled back until the fence dug into my spine. You're not her, I whispered. You can't be. But then she tilted her head, and her voice softened again, breaking me open. It's okay, Dad. I forgive you. The whiplash tore through me, a cruel cycle of hope and despair. I wanted to believe her, to reach out, but I knew, God, I knew, that whatever stood before me wasn't Chloe. It was something wearing her face, peeling back her memory like a mask to fit its own. Behind me, I heard a car screech to a stop. Heavy footsteps crunched against the gravel. Elias! Lena's voice cut through the air like a lifeline. She grabbed my arm, yanking me to my feet. Don't look at it, don't listen. But I couldn't stop. My eyes were glued to Chloe, who was smiling again, gentle, sweet, everything I wanted. Dad, she whispered, don't let them take me away again. I staggered forward, but Lena's grip tightened, nails digging into my arm. It's not her, Thorne. It's the witness. You invited it, and now it won't stop until it's finished. Her words rattled around in my skull, but Chloe's voice drowned them out. You can fix this, Dad. You can fix me. I broke free of Lena's grip and stumbled toward the fence. The water below shimmered black, calling me closer. Chloe's hands reached out, palms pale and perfect, just waiting for mine. Then Lena slammed into me, knocking the air from my lungs. We hit the ground hard, gravel tearing into my skin. She pinned me down, her face inches from mine, fury and terror mingling in her eyes. Look at me, she shouted. Not it. Me. You want to save her? Then fight this thing. Because if you don't, it'll eat you alive, and she'll be gone from you forever. Her words struck something raw inside me. Gone. Not dead. Not lost. Gone. Like she had never existed. My chest heaved. I forced myself to tear my gaze from Chloe, and the instant I did, the air shifted. The sweetness was gone from her face. She glared at me, eyes black and endless, and her voice split into layers. Chloe's voice, yes, but twisted with something deeper, older, hungrier.
You can't turn away from me,
it growled.
I am her. I am every choice you failed to make, every moment you abandoned. You fed me the night she died, and you will feed me again.
Lena pulled me to my feet, half dragging me back toward the car. Gravel skittered under our boots, and I felt the air grow heavier with every step. Chloe, no, the witness, followed, moving without sound. Her footsteps didn't crunch, her breathing didn't exist. She glided. We shoved ourselves into the car, Lena slamming the doors shut. She fumbled with the keys, cursing under her breath, and the engine roared to life. Through the windshield, Chloe stood at the edge of the quarry, watching us leave, her head tilted, lips curling into that familiar broken smile. You can't drive from me, she said, her voice carried into the car, inside my skull, though the glass should have silenced her. I'm already with you. We drove until the quarry was miles behind us, the road twisting through dead trees and silent houses. I pressed my head into my hands, every nerve buzzing with terror. Lena's knuckles were white on the wheel. We can't keep running, she said finally, her voice low, steady, like she was talking herself into it. Maya was right. There's an altar, an old one. That's where they bound it before. If there's a chance to stop this thing, it's there. I wanted to believe her, but the witness's words clung to me. I'm already with you. When we reached Maya's house, she was waiting on the porch, clutching an armful of books and loose papers. Her eyes widened when she saw us, then narrowed when she read my face. You called her, she said flatly. Didn't you? I couldn't even deny it. My silence was enough. Maya's lips pressed into a thin line. Then it's already started. We have 3 nights, maybe less. And if we don't act by the 4th, her voice trailed off, but I didn't need her to finish. Lena shoved the car door shut behind her. Then tell us how to fight it. Maya dropped the books onto a table inside, flipping through pages like her life depended on it. The air in the house smelled of dust and old paper, and the floorboards creaked under our weight. She spread out one yellowed parchment, its edges brittle with age, and jabbed her finger at a drawing etched in ink. This is it. The altar, built at the quarry's lowest point where the stone walls close in. They marked it with runes, bound the grief-eater inside. But bindings weaken. That's why it's still here, still feeding. If we can perform the ritual again, maybe we can trap it, stop it from spreading. I stared at the drawing, a crude stone slab ringed with jagged symbols. My throat tightened. And if we fail? Maya met my eyes, her face pale but unflinching. Then it takes you. And it grows strong enough to take this whole town. That night, I sat in Maya's house with Lena keeping watch. The air felt thick, heavy, pressing on my chest. Every creak in the floorboards, every whistle of wind outside sent my pulse racing. I tried to stay awake, but exhaustion pulled me under. And when my eyes finally closed, Chloe was waiting. Not the cruel witness, not the thing from the quarry. My Chloe. Sitting cross-legged on the floor of my mind, doodling in her notebook the way she used to when she thought I wasn't paying attention. She looked up, smiled softly, and said, "Don't let them take me, Dad." And then her face split open into darkness, swallowing me whole. The darkness closed over me like water, thick and suffocating, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. My arms flailed, reaching for anything solid, but there was nothing, just the endless press of black, heavy as stone. Then a voice cut through it. Her voice. "Why didn't you pick up?" It echoed around me everywhere and nowhere, sharp enough to split bone. I tried to answer, but when I opened my mouth, the darkness poured in, bitter and cold, choking me from the inside. I gagged, clawing at my throat, and then hands, small hands, grabbed mine. I looked down, and Chloe was there, floating in the dark with me. Her hair swirled like ink, her skin pale and soft, her eyes pleading. "Help me, Dad," she whispered. "Save me this time." Her words pierced me like hooks. I reached for her, desperate, and for a fleeting second our fingers touched. Then her face twisted, her mouth tearing wide into a jagged grin, and her nails dug into my skin. The sweetness drained away, replaced by a cruel, gloating laughter that wasn't hers.
"You can't save anyone,"
the witness growled through her mouth.
"Not your daughter. Not the boy. Not yourself."
The laughter swelled, drowning everything else, until I woke screaming. I was in Maya's living room, sweat soaking through my shirt, my lungs heaving like I'd run for miles. Lena was at my side instantly, gripping my shoulders, eyes wide. "What happened?" she demanded. I could barely form the words. It was her. She's inside my head. Maya stepped into the room, clutching a notebook. Her expression was grim. That's what it does. The closer it gets to the 4th night, the deeper it digs. Soon you won't be able to tell when you're awake or dreaming. And when that happens... She trailed off. I didn't need her to finish. The next day was worse. Every reflection was wrong. In the bathroom mirror, I didn't see myself. I saw Chloe, her eyes black pits, her mouth moving even when mine stayed still. In the window of the patrol car, she pressed her hands to the glass, whispering my name. When I blinked, she was gone, but the handprints remained, smeared across the glass. Lena caught me staring too long, my hands shaking on the wheel. "Don't let it pull you under," she said. "That's what it wants. If you give it too much, it'll eat you before the 4th night even comes." but it was already eating me. I could feel it in my bones. We spent the day gathering what Maya insisted we'd need for the ritual. Chalk, candles, iron nails, things that sounded like props from a bad stage play. But her conviction never wavered, and at that point, I would have tried anything. That evening, we drove out to the quarry. The closer we got, the more the world seemed to rot around us. Trees bent unnaturally, their branches twisted like skeletal arms. The air grew colder, damper, and even the birds stopped singing. The road narrowed, winding down toward the water, until the ruins of the old altar came into view. It was just as Maya's drawing had shown, a crude stone slab carved into the rock, its surface etched with faint runes, most of them worn smooth with time. The air around it hummed, heavy with something unseen. "This is it," Maya said, her voice hushed. "We'll need to redraw the markings, strengthen the seal. And when it shows itself, you have to resist, Elias. If you falter even for a second, the binding won't hold." I nodded, though the weight in my chest told me I was already doomed to fail. Night fell fast at the quarry. Shadows thickened, stretching across the water, and the runes glowed faintly under the moonlight as Maya and Lena worked, chalk and iron scraping against stone. I stood near the edge, staring into the black water, my heart pounding like a drum. Then I heard it. "Dad!" Her voice, soft and trembling, carried over the surface. I froze, my throat tightening. "Dad, please. I'm cold. I'm so cold I turned before I could stop myself." She was standing there again, just feet from me. Her hoodie clung damply to her frame, her hair dripping, though the ground beneath her was bone dry. She looked smaller somehow, fragile, the way she had when she was little and used to crawl into my bed after nightmares. "Don't let them bind me," she whispered. Her voice cracked, breaking my heart. "They'll hurt me, Dad. Don't let them." I staggered toward her, my hands reaching before I even realized. Behind me, Lena shouted, her voice sharp as gunfire. "Thorne, don't listen! That's not her!" But Chloe's eyes met mine, glistening with tears, and she said, "Please, Dad." I stepped closer. The ground trembled. A deep rumble rose from the quarry, like something enormous shifting beneath the surface. The runes on the altar flared, and Maya shouted words in a language I didn't understand, her voice strained with desperation. "Elias!" Lena's scream cut through the night. "If you take her hand, we're finished!" I looked down. Chloe's small, pale hand was reaching for mine, trembling, waiting. My heart screamed to take it, to save her, to bring her back. But my mind knew. This wasn't her. It never was. I shut my eyes, tears spilling hot down my cheeks. "You're not my daughter," I whispered. When I opened them, the witness's face had twisted. Her eyes were pits of darkness, her mouth splitting wide into an inhuman grin. She shrieked, a sound that rattled the air, and lunged at me. I stumbled back, crashing into the altar as Maya's voice rose to a fever pitch. The runes blazed, the air vibrating so violently I thought my bones would snap. The witness slammed into me, its hands cold as stone, its face inches from mine.
"You can't erase me,"
it howled.
"I am her. I am your failure. I am the night you killed her."
The words pierced me, raw and merciless, and for a split second I faltered. My grip on reality slipped, and I almost believed it, almost. But then Lena was there, her hand gripping mine, grounding me. Her voice cut through the chaos, steady and fierce. "She's gone, Elias. But you're still here. Don't give it what it wants," I roared, forcing every ounce of strength left in me into one word. "No!" The witness shrieked, its face contorting, its body writhing. Maya's voice reached its peak, and the runes flared brighter than the moon. A surge of energy ripped through the air, knocking us all back. For a moment, the world went silent. The witness staggered, its form flickering between Chloe and something monstrous, featureless, a silhouette of grief and hunger. Then, with one final scream, it was yanked backward, dragged into the altar's light. Its body convulsed, twisted, and then it was gone, swallowed whole. The air collapsed, the rumble fading, the glow of the runes sputtering out until only moonlight remained. I lay on the ground, gasping, staring up at the sky. My chest felt hollow, my body weak, but for the first time in days, I couldn't hear her voice. The quarry was silent, but silence didn't mean safety. Maya staggered to her feet, clutching her chest, her face pale. It's bound again, but it's never permanent. Lena helped me sit up, her hand steady on my shoulder. Then we use it, she said. We keep this town alive as long as we can. But as I stared into the black water of the quarry, I knew the truth. The witness wasn't gone. It was waiting, and it still had me marked. The air around the quarry still vibrated faintly, the silence too sharp, too fragile. My ears rang from the ritual, my chest aching as if something had been torn loose. I thought for a moment that it was over, that we'd actually managed to cage the thing again. But then the wind shifted. It carried her voice. Dad. It was faint, almost tender, like a memory whispered into my skull. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing it to stop, but the sound coiled inside me. The witness wasn't gone. It was crouching in the corners of my mind, patient, hungry. Maya stumbled to the altar, running her fingers along the runes. Her face was grim. The binding didn't take fully, she muttered. We forced it back, but the seal was weak. It's still connected to him. Her eyes met mine, and the weight of that truth nearly buckled my knees. Lena moved closer, placing herself between me and the quarry, her hand hovering near her sidearm, though we both knew bullets meant nothing. Then we find another way, she said. We're not losing him. But the witness wasn't waiting. A splash cracked the surface of the water, and ripples spread wide. My heart froze as something pulled itself up from the depths. It was Chloe again, or rather what it wanted me to see of her. Dripping wet this time, skin bluish, lips pale, the exact image of how I imagined her body looked when they pulled it from the river beneath the railway bridge. My gut twisted so hard I thought I'd vomit. You let me drown, Dad, she said, her teeth chattering through the words. You told me you didn't care. You said my pain wasn't real. The memory slammed into me. That fight, the venom in my voice, the way her eyes had filled with tears before she turned and ran. I had said it. I had meant it even, in that awful moment. I didn't... My voice cracked, but I couldn't lie. Not to this face. I was angry. I didn't mean it. But I heard you. Her words sliced me open. I carried it with me into the dark. And now you will too. Her form flickered, distorting, elongating. She grew taller, her arms stretching unnaturally long, her face splitting into too many mouths, all of them crying, all of them accusing. It wasn't Chloe anymore. It was grief itself, gnawing, endless. Lena dragged me back, screaming at Maya, "Do something! Finish it!" But Maya was already collapsing against the altar, clutching her chest. Blood flecked her lips, her body too weak to continue the chant. "It's too strong," she gasped. "The ritual can't hold." The witness shrieked, the sound rattling the stone walls, shattering the chalk lines and snuffing out the candles. The ground quaked, and I fell hard to my knees. And then it was just me and it. It loomed over me, shifting between Chloe's fragile teenage frame and that monstrous, gaping form. Its eyes, black voids swallowing light, locked on mine.
This is your fourth night.
It hissed.
Time to feed.
It reached for me, its hand cold as ice, and when its fingers brushed my skin, my vision blurred. Suddenly, I wasn't at the quarry anymore. I was back on the bridge. The night Chloe died. The wind was sharp, cutting through my coat, the river below roaring. Chloe stood on the edge, her face red from crying, her hands gripping the railing. "Don't follow me," she had said then. "You don't care." You said so. And in that moment, in this perfect, brutal clarity, I remembered every detail. the way I stood frozen, the phone buzzing in my pocket, her eyes searching mine for one last reason to stay. I hadn't given it to her. My chest collapsed under the weight of it. I screamed, clawing at the memory, trying to change it, trying to shout the words I hadn't said. I do care. Please, Chloe, I'm sorry. But my mouth wouldn't move. The moment locked. The witness's laughter bled through the scene, overlapping Chloe's sobs.
Relive it,
It whispered.
relive it forever.
I could feel my heart straining, thundering, ready to burst. My vision dimmed, pain clawing down my arm, sweat freezing on my skin. It wasn't just a memory, it was killing me. Somewhere far away I heard Lena shouting my name, her voice raw, desperate. But it was fading. I looked at Chloe, my Chloe, standing on that railing. She turned toward me one last time, her face wet with tears, and then she let go. The world fell silent. When I opened my eyes, the sky was gray. Dawn. I was lying on the damp ground by the quarry, the altar behind me, the water still and black. Lena knelt over me, her face pale, her eyes wide with horror. "Elias," she whispered. "Oh God, Elias." I sat up slowly, my body numb, my mind fogged. She held out a photo, one she'd pulled from my wallet. A picture of Chloe, her smile bright, her arm looped around my shoulders. But I felt nothing. No pain, no grief, not even recognition. I stared at the photo like it was a stranger's face. I knew, logically, this was my daughter, but the memory of her was gone. No sound of her laugh, no image of her messy hair, no echo of her voice. The guilt, the sorrow, the very thing that had defined me, it had been hollowed out. "Do you remember her?" Lena asked, her voice trembling. I shook my head. "I don't know who this is." The words left my mouth flat, empty, like I was reading them from someone else's script. Lena's face crumpled, tears spilling as she clutched the photo to her chest. She looked at me as if I'd already died. Maybe in some way I had. Behind her, Maya lay still against the altar, her chest unmoving. She hadn't survived the night. The quarry was quiet again, but I could feel it in my hollow chest. Stronger now, fuller. It had taken the best part of me and left only the shell. Lena staggered to her feet, looking out at the still water. "It's not finished," she said bitterly. "It'll keep feeding. It always does." Her voice cracked. "And no one will believe us." I stood slowly, my body moving without will, my mind strangely clear now that the torment was gone. Empty clarity, the kind that felt worse than grief. We walked back toward the car in silence. The quarry behind us sat still, patient, its hunger briefly satisfied. But as we reached the road, headlights appeared in the distance. A car filled with teenagers turned down the gravel path, their laughter faint in the morning air. They were curious, drawn by the same whispers that had brought so many before them. Lena froze, her face pale with dread. I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel anything. The last thing I remember before the silence swallowed me was the sound of their voices carrying toward the quarry. Another invitation, another feast, and then the water rippled.